Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's get started. Stand in front of the glass case. Mike looked at every gun in the glass case, which was made up of 4 cabinets pushed together end to end and well lit. There were at least 100 handguns inside. At the far left end were the 22 seconds, target pistols with 6 rounds. Revolvers and clipped-fed guns. One had a barrel less than 2 in long, and one had a barrel a foot long. Mike thought about the damage that tiny piece of lead could do. He moved to his right. 325 caliber shiny guns, all in a row. 1 chrome, 1 stainless steel, and 1 blue. All 3 small enough to be carried in a pocket. All 3 used a clip and held 5. He thought the 25 wouldn't do the damage he wanted unless it was very close to the target. He stepped to his right and looked at the 32 seconds and then the 38 seconds. He thought he was finally at some guns that would and could do what he wanted. He remembered that police used to carry 38 seconds, so they must be good at killing. Next up were 9mm pistols, followed by revolvers and clip-fed guns, including a single shot bigger than the 38 seconds. They were displayed on a lower shelf, along with brown leather waist holsters, both brown and black shoulder holsters, and some holsters made of brown leather. The stop-topping power was implied in the size and shape of these weapons, some of which were chrome and some blue. 2 were black, flat black. The last time Mike had fired a gun was when he was in the Air Force Station in Germany. In the last month, he had spent some time reading and getting familiar with it again. Mike stopped. He glanced to his right and saw the dirty, hairy, long-barreled .44 Magnum, a .357 Magnum, and an Old West-style .40 caliber 6 gun. He wanted to make an impression and not forget the job. He decided on a 9mm. 10 minutes later, he was back in the Lexus. He could pick up the gun on Friday. He paid with a credit card. It had the same name as the driver's license he had shown. He had paid $200 for the guns from a man in East Louisiana. The 9mm cost him $850, but he would never, the guy whose name and address were on the license, would get the bill after the rented Lexus took him to a Hilton downtown. He registered and used a different credit card and a name he asked for and got room 921. He was more interested in the people with reservations in room 821, in the other Hilton in town, the next day as he approached. He opened the door to room 921 and put on some latex gloves. He was careful not to leave any fingerprints, knowing from watching CSI on TV that he would leave epithelial skin cells in the room. He also knew his DNA was on them, but he figured it didn't matter. He rested for a while in the room, and then went downstairs for dinner. He had a day's growth of beard and 2 rubber devices tucked into his cheeks to help modify how his face looked. His hair was a little longer than his usual businessman's haircut and much grayer. At dinner, he watched most of a basketball game he didn't care about, and then went to a house phone and called room. No one answered, so he went back to his room and set up his test. He used a vacuum and a drill that came out of his suitcase to set up the test. He drilled a hole through the floor in his room and through the ceiling in the room below room 821. The hole was small, about 9mm. He'd positioned the hole based on the floor plan of the room he was in, and assumed the room below would be the same. When he looked through the hole with the tiny video camera, he saw that the room was exactly as he'd figured. The hole was right where he wanted it to be, 12 inches back from the edge of the sink in the bathroom. Anyone standing at the sink would be right under the hole. The minuscule amount of dust that fell when he drilled the hole landed on the rug. If his timing was good, it would be thrown away by the room-cleaning woman hours before. Mike set up the camera again, this time in the bathroom. He turned off the light and left the camera on a monitor so he could watch the bathroom below without being seen. The monitor had a motion sensor, so when someone came into the bathroom, a red light flashed. Mike went into his bathroom and watched the man shave and brush his teeth. Then a woman came in and kissed the man. They were both naked. They stayed there for 3.5 minutes, which was plenty of time. Mike thought he'd turned off the camera, but Mike went to bed, thinking about his brother and Monica. They'd met in Orlando 3 years before at a convention. Monica was there as a product rep for a company that sold specialized software. Shane, Mike's brother, had met her. By the time the conference was over, she was working for Shane instead of the software company. A year later, they were married. In the 2 years since she'd had her breasts done and her face done, and was seen in public hanging on Shane's arm whenever the PR people said it would be good for business, Mike reviewed the events of 2. A week ago, he'd gone to the law firm in Orange County for a business meeting. While he was waiting for his appointment, he noticed Monica enter the hotel. She was with Paul, Shane's business partner. They walked into the lobby together, and Monica took Paul's arm. They went to the desk and registered. Mike watched as they went to the elevators and went up to the 6th floor. The business appointment was given access to the reservations computer system, which had 2 minor problems. While he fixed them, he looked at Paul Samuels had reservations for a room on the 6th floor, but he didn't have one. Monica Samuels did, though. He searched and found that Monica Samuels had been in the hotel 4 times in 2 months. Jack Samuels had been there twice. Monica and Shane's partner were having an affair. Over the next 10 days, he found they were meeting in various hotels 2 or 3 times a week. Computers are great when you know how to use them. Mike wondered if he should tell Shane. He had dinner with Shane and touched the subject lightly. There was this story about a rich guy whose wife was sleeping around. When he found out, he divorced her but lost millions in the settlement. Shane said he wouldn't want a divorce from a like that, he'd want her dead. Mike didn't tell Shane what he knew. He finally fell asleep, slept well, and was up before 9 the next day. He packed and covered his activities before he left the hotel for the day. He spread a small packet of powder in the room and dropped 10 sets of small hairs in the room as well. Amazing the things one can do. From discarded vacuum bags from a few medical buildings, Mike gathered a few things when he was in the elevator. He took the gloves off and pocketed them. He returned the Lexus later that day at the airport. He spent part of the night in Terminal 1, Southwest, and the rest of the night in Terminal 7, United. He changed clothes and bathrooms in both terminals on Friday. He rented a car and went back to the gun shop and picked up the 9mm, which he had bought with the credit card of Jack Williams of Koga Park. The gun shop was 80 miles from the Hilton. He checked into the Hilton room at 9. By 9 a.m., he knew the rooms on the 8th floor were clean. At 0 every day, the crew doing the 9th floor finished at noon. He checked in, and as soon as he was in the room, drilled the hole just like the test hole he had done the day before. An hour later, he watched the maid collect the rugs and wash down all the surfaces where dust might have landed. He smiled and positioned himself in the hotel lobby. He found a spot where he could see the registration desk without being seen. He was behind some plants and using a video camera and the plant pot hooked to his laptop to monitor the desk. He also had a spreadsheet on the computer in case someone looked at 510. He watched as his brother's business partner and his brother's wife checked in. He was holding she had an arm around him, like she was his trophy wife. They had one small suitcase between them. Once they got into the elevator, Mike packed up his laptop and went to his room. He called his brother's office and, of course, Shane answered. "Hey Shane, what's up? I'm going out of town for a while. I have a chance to do some consulting in Chicago for a week. I'm leaving in about half an hour. I'll call you when I get settled. How are things with you?" "Not so good. I don't have any proof, but I think Monica is cheating. I don't have any idea who with. It's just a suspicion for now." "Where is she?" "Some charity thing down in Orange County." "What will you be doing tonight?" "I've got an all-nighter here with my tax. Mike, we'll have dinner delivered and work all night." Mike paused. "Hey, about Monica. Call PE. He's a PI. He can check her out. You'll know what's what." Monica was naked and peeing, even from directly above, and she was a real looker. Mike never understood what his brother saw in her, other than a great body. But he wasn't the one who had to make the choice of spouse. Paul had a shower when she was done, and a while later they came out and dressed and used the mirror. The lights went out, and Mike assumed they'd gone out too. He turned on the light. The motion sensor triggered, and Mike went back to watching TV. His personal car was parked in the visitor's lot at the hotel. He carried all his extra gear down to the car and stashed it in the boot back in the room. He dusted with epithelial skin cells and hair, and wiped anything he might have touched, even though he wore gloves the whole time. All he had to do was he had the video camera and the computer case for the laptop with him. Inside the carrying case was an empty laptop case, with just enough room for the 9mm. He was leaving a square piece of thick plastic that he would use to capture all the GSR from the shot GSR. He learned from television that this is gunshot residue. The light flashed. Mike was startled. He went into the bathroom and got the weapon ready. He watched the monitor and saw Monica, naked, come into the bathroom. She stood at the sink and looked into the mirror. A few seconds passed and Paul stepped up behind her, wrapped her in his arms and held her. Monica turned to face Paul, and Mike watched as she came closer to him, her arms going around his neck. And they kissed. Mike pulled the camera from the hole and replaced it with the gun. He made sure the GSR wouldn't get on him, and then he pulled the trigger twice. Quickly, the sound was deafening. Mike resisted the urge to look. He packed everything as quickly as he could, and we walked out into the hallway. He saw no one until he made his way to the elevator, which was going down and had come from the top floor. He joined the crowd and followed them out to the ground floor. 10 minutes later, he was on the road, driving in the late morning. He heard on the radio that Paul Samuels, a millionaire businessman, had been killed, and his companion was in serious condition. Mike called his brother on his mobile. "Shane, I just heard on the news that Paul Samuels was killed. Is that your Paul Samuels?" Mike was in a hotel bathroom when someone shot him. The police think it was a professional hit. He's going back to Louisiana tonight. Shane, is she going to live? I don't know. I haven't gone to the hospital yet. If you do, don't drive yourself. This is too emotional a time to do that. Damn, let me get back. I'll be there as fast as I can without getting arrested for flying low. Mike was arrested for flying low. He'd left the hotel that night and had a quarter tank of gas. He'd filled up in Barreau and paid with his credit card. After talking to Shane, Mike gasped again and headed home. He came out that Paul wasn't pretty and had been cheating Shane for over a year. The police never Monica got out of the hospital, and Shane had no trouble getting a divorce. She got nothing except a huge scar down the side of her cheek, and a breast that was no longer there. The bullet entered her breast and exited from her hip. Monica would never have been much of a mother anyway. Shane paid for a 6-month lease on a cheap apartment while the divorce went through. When the divorce was final, her lease was terminated. Shane and I never saw her after the divorce. There are brothers you can screw over, and brothers who won't let their brothers down. Mike wondered over the years if he was ever going to tell his brother what really happened. It was on a fishing trip that the two of them, while the divorce was being processed, Shane and I helped her find a cheap apartment to rent for a month. Once the divorce was finalized, her lease was terminated. After the divorce, we never saw her again. There are brothers you can screw over and brothers who won't let their brothers down. Over the years, Mike wondered if he would ever tell his brother what really happened. It was on a fishing trip that the two brothers Mike was surprised when Shane said it was done to perfection. They never knew if it was the fish that he cooked or the fish he shot. They just looked at each other, and the answer was clear. As they say, blood is thicker than water. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.